Will Carey. This is your host, the aforementioned Will Carey. Going with between awesome and disaster. I like the feel of that as the title. I appreciate you listening to today's show. It's been an interesting couple of days in New York City. The blizzard winter storm Jonas just dumped 30 inches of snow on the city. As a result, my show with David Lawson at Bunga's Den got canceled, but we have rescheduled it. So me and David are going to be doing our storytelling shows. I'm going to be doing Laughing Through the Sad. He's going to be doing Flyer Guy. We're actually now back at Bunga's Den on February 5th at 9 p.m. Still a free show. It's right off of Union Square in New York City, and we would love to see you there. So this is today on the show. I have my good friend Tyler Richardson. Tyler, not only is he one of the funniest comics in New York City, he's a completely unflappable human being, and I like that about him. Like every time I see him, he's just a beacon of sunshine and radiancy, and we have a good chat about comedy. We have a good chat about his life actually growing up in because we were from a similar area, from the DMV, or if you're not familiar with that, that means DC, Maryland, Virginia area, small states. So we tend to stick together. And I didn't know Tyler when I was in Maryland. I was in Maryland. He was closer to Virginia. But the comedy community and the comics that come out of those three states that have since moved to New York are still a pretty tight-knit group. So we talk a bit about comedy in that scene, and as well as his experiences with serving in the military. And then we're going to also talk a little bit about comic books at the end. And it was I'd say a very pleasant chat with a good friend. I like to have these every now and then. So I would say this is probably more towards an awesome when it comes to moments. So thank you for listening. Let's go to my chat now with my buddy Tyler Richardson, and I'll talk to you afterwards. Sounds good, Tyler. That's how I signal that we've started.
Oh, fair enough.
That's how I say your name. So it took a while for you to get over here, but I'm glad you're here, man, because you're one of my favorites in the city.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we had discussed it like in the summertime, and here we are, a new year.
Exactly. But I'm glad that it's happening now, because like I was saying earlier, one of the comics to watch in New York City for 2016.
I'm pretty energetic on stage, not really, but yeah, I'm very optimistic for the year. So that was a nice little January present.
Well, and I think it's completely warranted, man, because like I haven't I don't think I've known you very long, but when I started seeing you around at shows and places in New York, I was like, oh man, he's great.
You're far too kind, but the city has been wonderful, man. I think when you're like a comic who lives elsewhere and you're thinking about New York, it can seem a bit overwhelming, but everybody's been so friendly. It didn't take long to get very comfortable, which is good, just because I feel like once you're comfortable, then you can really be yourself for a while. You're eager to impress, and yeah, I have no complaints.
Exactly. I was kind of the same way for I'd say the first couple of years. I was just sort of feeling like I was walking around a party, and I wasn't sure if anyone knew if I was invited or not.
You guys got on the wrong shoes, man.
Yeah, starting to feel better now. I'm just kind of doing. My new philosophy is if I do lots of cool things, maybe I'll do cool things with other people.
I feel like that might be the case. Your shows are going well. I had a very fun time at You Can Use That. I believe I was in the first one, right?
Yes, you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're going to be on the couples edition one I'm doing in February.
Should be a good time.
Exactly. I'm going to host that with my girlfriend.
Oh, and that will be your first time on stage with her?
Yes.
Well,
it won't be her first time on stage. She did do an open mic once. That was quite fun for me to watch.
I'm trying to think if I was there. I don't think I was, but I imagine that as somebody who watches it all the time, you can't help but get the urge. And how long ago was that she did it?
Probably like 3 months.
Okay. Any urge to get back up there?
None whatsoever.
Yeah, that can happen.
Yeah. I mean, she speaks publicly, but she's not used to jokes, you know.
Yeah, it's very different. But it's awesome that she gave it a shot. I think anytime I was with a woman who wasn't a comic, they would talk about it, but never actually got up and did it. So respect for that.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you found this a lot, but if you do ever tell people when you're a comic, like, oh, I could never do that. You guys are so brave what you do.
It's something of a compliment, but at the same time, I'm just like, if you're not afraid of public speaking, it's really not that big a deal. But being funny on stage, I guess, seems frightening to others. I think nobody just wants to get up there and show themselves and their sense of humor and get nothing back. Like, that's not funny. Get off the stage.
Because that hurts.
Yeah.
Because that's personal rejection.
You don't like me.
As a human being.
Yeah.
And that's like different from like if you were doing a character or something like that. Like where you could say like, oh, they didn't get me.
Yeah. Improv is special that way. I can't do that. I'm a bad team player, and I feel like if things go wrong, you have people to blame, and I can't have that.
Right. Like to just heap it all on yourself.
Exactly. On myself, it's better, because if I can blame people, I'm sure I would. Like, man, if Danny hadn't messed that up for us, the place would have gone crazy, ripping shirts off.
Yeah, if you had just built the scene, man.
Goddamn Danny.
Yeah. So how long have you been in New York?
It's almost been 2 years. I moved in June of 2014.
Nice. So because we're kind of from the same area, are we?
DMV.
Yeah, the way to be.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place, and it's bittersweet, I guess, just because like we left and we're in a better place. There's no mistake about that. But that scene continues to grow and get better, and all of their open mics look like shows that we strive to get on. But excuse me, it's all about location.
Yeah, definitely. And when did you start comedy? We'll jump around a little bit, but I'm kind of want to.
I started to take it seriously in 2010. I was like getting up once, twice a month. I would take breaks for a year at a time since probably like 2007. Mm-hmm. But 2010, I started getting up like every night and writing every day. Because like it all began with this one festival in Calgary called Funny Fest. And he let me up for some reason. I wasn't funny. And I was like, okay, I need to get out to prepare for that because I want to be funny when I get there. And then trying to be funny to prepare led to a couple bookings at like the Richmond Funny Bone or some other club. And then there was just always something. And it just kept me going.
Awesome. So 2010, how old were you?
6 years ago. So I would have been 26.
Okay, so that's because I feel like in like some of our peers that started like when they were in their teens, that's like, but not saying like you have made up for lost time, most definitely.
Sometimes I think about it and I'm like, man. Like, I really admire the people who know that they want to do something like this or know what they want to do that young. But then I immediately check myself and go, well, I had to go through whatever to get to this point. Like, I don't know who I'd have been if I'd have done things differently. So if it had to be this way, I'm totally fine with that.
Okay. So I'm curious what the whatever is that you went through to get to the comedy stage. So
that is quite a tale.
So yeah, I don't know exactly where I could start, but let me ask you this. Did you grow up in DC or did you grow up in like Maryland or Virginia?
I was an Army brat, so I moved all around, and then in middle school we settled in Woodbridge, Virginia, which is like a little below Fairfax. Mm-hmm. And then I was there through high school, went to college down in Richmond at VCU. What's up, Rams? And then after that I moved back to Fairfax, and I sold cars for a little over 2 years, and then I got a real job, and it was some point around selling cars that I decided I wanted to entertain comedy. And, you dream big, but I really didn't have the drive. But I did meet people like Seton and
Seton Smith.
yeah, and Aparna. I think that's when I met Jermaine Fowler as well, and we were really close.
Jermaine's a DC guy?
Oh yeah.
I don't think I ever met him.
Oh man, friendliest dude, and he's still the same. He's still silly.
Yeah. I mean,
Rory Scovel, he was still in DC like when I first started coming out.
I remember Rory Scovel when when I met him. It was, God, I think it was like a bar in Annapolis, and like he and Scott Moran were the traveling headliner and feature, and then they were headlining T. Brett Hudson's room the next day. This was like on a Saturday, and they did that on a Sunday. Just telling jokes in a bar and grill.
It's weird to think that those people are like big now and have done amazing things and are on television all the time. But I think that it drives me because like, you know, these people, like you have their phone number, you've texted, you've got memories, and you see what they accomplish. And then you go, all right, well, perhaps I'm capable of the same because they made the impossible look possible. Mm-hmm. I think that's very good. And every big city probably has somebody like that, like Texas people, certainly, Chicago, most definitely. DC isn't a place that was cranking out a lot of people who are really working and headlining and on TV.
And getting like spots and
yeah, but in the last like 8-9 years, a lot of people.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah, so I think it's very good for anybody who's like starting in some area like that. If you see that, because you're just like, man, and then they come back home and they're still friendly. And
exactly. That's the key point. I think that kind of it keeps you humble in a way.
Yeah,
is what I think. Cause so you started in like 26. So with Scoville and like all these people that I imagine anyone who might pick this up knows. What's the first place you go on stage? What's your act like?
Oh, when I first went on stage, it was at this competition at a really urban club called Jokes on Us in Laurel, Maryland. And I'm the opposite of what they would expect, always was. And I did okay the first round. I was talking about just random stuff from my imagination. The only thing I really remember that I spoke about was Mike Tyson was up for a fight in like the DC area, and it got like vetoed or voted down or something. And I joked about how I feel more comfortable with him at least 3 states away because he's capable of anything. And yeah, I did all right, but I came back the next week and my mom told me I should talk about 9/11 and where I was.
I was hoping we would get to this story.
And I took her advice and I went up there and just bombed. It was too soon. And then they kept the spotlight on me as I walked back to my friends and family. My dad had brought a bunch of his friends out, and my mom and grandma were there. And they kept the spotlight on me, and this guy, Fat Doctor, who like found Martin Lawrence, he was hosting, and he made fun of how young I looked and how terrible I did the entire walk, which felt like 2 minutes to get to the back of the club.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, and it was my birthday, and I was annihilated, and I still don't like that dude to this day for that.
I would imagine so. Is that like a thing with real what the comedy industry would call real urban rooms? Is that a thing where they just humiliate you if you do badly?
It is certainly a possibility. You know, best case scenario, especially for someone like me, you walk in and nobody's really stepping out of your way if you're trying to make your way to the stage or something, and then you go up and have a good set, and then suddenly everybody's treating you like you're Michael Jackson, and they're like, oh my God, man, you were so funny, you should keep on. And then the worst case is you get played off by like church music, and everybody would rather spit on you than say God bless you if you sneezed. Yeah, it's a very delicate thing because you want to perform in front of your own people. And anybody who can't tell, I'm black. And but at the same time, I've been on stage in urban rooms, and the moment that I open my mouth and say hello, I can see them check out like, oh, this dude's corny. No, thank you.
Do you get that? Be like, oh, he's not black enough for me?
Yeah, quite often. And that's life. I've had to deal with it forever. I've started to talk about some of that now on stage.
Right.
It's a weird thing. I feel like other races don't necessarily cast people out like that. Like Charles Manson, I feel like white people would agree is a terrible white dude, but they're not saying like they're not trying to act like he's not white,
Right.
and banishing him from the land. But when you're black, like there are a lot of examples of black people who've said something that goes against popular black opinion, whether it's Whoopi Goldberg or Raven Simone or Don Lemon or whomever, and black people cast them out. Uncle Tom is like the worst thing you can be called.
Right.
And people call them everything coon and this and that. And it sucks because we should have just unity, but
Right.
we are quick to bash someone who steps out of line.
That's interesting to me, and it's not anything that I've been able to understand because like with white people, it's always like, oh, fuck that guy,
Right.
or fuck that girl, and or whoever. And I've definitely never been told, Will, you're way too white.
We'd like it if you'd stop calling yourself white.
If you could just tone it down a bit. God, I am so glad I'm not one of those people, because like every time I see that those people are real in the world, I'm just like, oh my goodness,
It's tough,
how does this even happen? Because I had my fair share of that too, because I will just still would do any room that asked me. So starting in DC and Maryland, you do black rooms.
Yeah.
And I would either get confused. I'd get confused stares because this was when I was in my Stephen Wright phase.
Oh.
And I was super monotone on stage. I would either get that, or I would get someone just saying, he's stupid.
I think that they give a white dude in an urban room, I feel like they give you a lot of respect right up front, because they're like, how brave of him to stand up here knowing that there's a good chance that we won't like him.
Right.
But it's weird, like, and I'd hate for someone to misconstrue what I'm saying. I love black people. I love seeing black people happy.
Likewise.
Yeah. And
Just me and Tyler are beaconing rays of positivity.
always, man, we shine bright through the storm.
That's how we do in the where we're from.
Yeah, it's very tight, and even if you didn't know anybody, like they've been more supportive, the people who are still back home, than some of the people who are here. So love the DMV, and I haven't really done a lot of urban rooms since I've been here, because it hasn't really even come up. But I did a lot back home, and sometimes I take the lump and I'd brush that off, but it always felt good, because funny should be funny anywhere. So I was never afraid to take what I find funny to an urban room. If it didn't go well, I would, suck that up.
Yeah.
But it felt good knowing that, okay, well, these aren't just funny to white people. It's just funny.
Yeah, and there's a certain integrity to, even when you go down hard, that at least you didn't pander, or
True.
you didn't, like you didn't hump a stool. Or
I've had people tell me that I should change what I'm doing. Like, oh, well, I know why you don't do well in urban rooms. You need to blah. And whatever they say, like, that's not me. And I'm like, I'm not going to change. That's insulting to me and them.
Exactly. And same way, like I knew if I tried to be if I start thinking, oh, well, this is what black people want, then that's just a short road to pain and racism. And,
True.
And then I'm that guy on that article.
Though there are some regions, as much as I hate to say it, where I feel like they tend to like a certain kind of humor. Like if you were going into the south of Virginia, I find that they tend to like dick jokes a little bit more than like a city.
Yeah.
And they don't have any shame about it. Like Larry the Cable Guy makes a lot of money off talking about farts and this and that, and that's what they want. They worked all week. They want to come hear some stupid fart jokes and laugh their ass off and go home.
Yeah.
Which is difficult if you've built your whole act around trying to talk about what makes you a unique special flower or something. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Please throw a pie.
Yes, throw a pie, or make a reference to a road I drive down.
Midlothian Turnpike. It's funny when
Yeah, how
headliners
about
will
the
be like, "What's
Orioles?"
an interesting area around here?" And then you see them go up and put it in a joke.
Well, at the Comedy Factory, the couple times I would do set, I did some guest spots on Mickey Coachella shows. I don't know if you know him.
I do.
The big reach into like oh, this is where all the rednecks or dumb people live was Dundalk.
I've heard that.
In Baltimore. That was your go-to for dumb people, and then Glen Burnie was your go-to for like Mexican joke or something like that. I didn't have too much of that. I'm trying to learn it now because I'm seeing like big headliners that I like and respect do at least do a little bit of that.
I think it's something that they have to do when they're on the road to identify, because people like knowing that you might be familiar with their town, even though you're all over the country. Like, oh shit, you know about Baltimore? But
they appreciate the effort.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes they actually do. Like when Patrice O'Neill would talk about DC, he sounded like somebody who had actually like gone out and experienced a little bit of the DC life. I love the fact that Mr. P was recorded at the Improv down there.
I know, that's super cool. Did you ever work or see him live?
No, I didn't become a big fan until around the time when he did Charlie Sheen's roast. So I was really late.
So towards the end for him.
Yeah, and I grew to instantly like idolize him, and I went through all of the like Open Anthony tapes and everything I could find on YouTube or every special I could find. It's unfortunate that he's gone, just because he was such a good example of what we should all strive to be. Not necessarily like him, but I just loved how he could take anything and speak about it, and people would gasp or not want to continue on that subject. And then 2 minutes later, suddenly all that's gone, and you're just laughing at his take on whatever it was.
Exactly. And he's like one of those guys that I can watch him, and I would, if I never met him, but I would feel like I would have been afraid to. But he was like one of those. Exactly. Even if I didn't agree with his opinion, I could at least, okay, those are some fair points. I don't feel that lines up with the way I live my life, but it seems to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, man, it was genius to me. And I think the closest that we have to that now is like Bill Burr. And I say this for both of them. Bill Burr is one of the few people who I really look up to that I haven't met in the city yet, even though, you know, he's around from time to time. I would meet them knowing that there's a good chance I'm going to stick my foot in my mouth, or they might not be friendly. But just to do it, like if Patrice was alive, I would definitely meet him and let him rip me to shreds, just so I could be like, yeah, I met him.
Yeah.
How was it? Well, you know, it could have gone better. I think I interrupted
I had to
him when
cry
he was
for
getting
5
ready.
minutes.
Yeah.
Afterwards, but it worked.
I got that memory now.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So so DC now. So you grew up in an Army brat. Who in your family is in the military?
My dad was in the Air Force. My mom was a civilian. I think she started with the Navy, and now she's working for the Department of Homeland Defense. What's up, Sherry Richardson? And yeah, so that led me moving around a lot. But my parents got divorced when I was like 5. So I was with my mom, though I did live with my dad for a little while in Austin, Texas, which was a lovely place. I remember people like waving and saying hello everywhere you went.
Oh yeah, I love Austin. It's a great city.
I have nothing but fond memories. And I had to relearn everything when I got back to Virginia, because we were like a year ahead down there. And I was like, I already know my multiplication table. They're like, well, just do it again.
Yeah, so you head of the class.
I probably should have tried to take a test to like skip. That would have been awesome. But I never did, because I was afraid I would fail it and just be stuck with everyone else. Like, you thought you were better than us, and you're totally not. Sit there with your number 2 pencil and shut up.
Yeah, and that's probably an even worse feeling, is thinking you're hot shit and then realizing that you're...
Hey, this guy thought he was smart because he's in TAG. Did they have TAG when you were a kid?
What's TAG?
Talented and Gifted.
I had never heard it used like that before. No.
Oh,
I've never
yeah,
heard
we were the
talented and
special kids.
gifted.
I heard one other name, and I can't remember right now. But yeah, like when they'd call out the smart people, like, hey, all the A students, we need you in your special smart people class right now. And I had fun with that while it lasted. And then I did the humanities classes in high school and whatnot. Surprisingly, wasn't the greatest high school student, but come college, I actually started to care.
Well, that's good.
It was.
And what did you go to college for?
I started mass communications and did public administration.
Public administration, so public sector kind of work.
Yeah, in my mind, I thought that I would really want to help out my community. And I mean, I didn't want to go to college though. Like, I went because I was trying to help my mom pay for the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, which was insanely expensive. And I was like, well, that's so expensive. I should help her out. So I joined the Army Reserves. And then...
How old were you?
I was 18. And when I got there, I was like, man, if I'm going through all this, I should probably just go to school. And so then I went to school. But I don't regret it, but I often think about, like, man, if I had just come to New York when I was 18 and gone that route, I don't know where I'd be.
Right. So you joined the Army Reserves when you're 18?
Yep.
And what year is it?
That is 2001.
Okay. What month into
I went
2001?
And I deployed in July, and I had to wait around for a while. But long story short, I was in basic training during 9/11.
And I've heard you tell this story before, and there's no greater example of that time.
Yeah, in my mind, like, we were so far removed from the war in Iraq, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go get this college money. Everything's gonna be easy peasy. And when it happened that morning, I had been assigned to rake a front house battalion, which is like the biggest yard anyone's ever seen. I was in South Carolina, Fort Jackson. And I was very upset because I hate chores, especially if they're outside.
Right.
And somebody ran up to me in the middle of me raking and told me that they flew a plane into one of the towers. I didn't care at all. I was like, I don't care. I'm miserable out here raking. Leave me alone. So they ran away. And then somebody comes back and they're like, hey, they just flew a second plane into like the other tower. And I was like, I don't care. And they were like, I think we're going to war. And I was like, oh my God, no. And then I freaked out and I started looking for everybody, like my drill sergeant and my chaplain. I was like, we're not going to war, right? These people are crazy. And I was like, we're going to sign a treaty. A treaty is what's going to happen. And they were like, seems like we're going to war. And they pulled everybody into a field. President Bush, like, they had this special screen set up, and he came on with a message just for the soldiers, and everybody was having like one of those moments from a movie where they're getting pumped up, like, we're getting ready to bring the fight to Al Qaeda. And I'm just standing there like, this is not happening. I'm not here for this. I'm here for the college money.
Right. So he had made a video specifically for the military that the public didn't see?
Yeah, and had I not been in my mindset, I may remember the video better because I was not focused on that.
Well, you were just sort of like, oh my God, I'm going to die.
Yeah, and it was probably a really cool moment for the people who remember, like, yeah, man, President Bush came out there and really like hyped everyone up to, you know, bring back freedom. But I was just miserable. Fortunately, it all worked out. I was a food inspector. I don't know why I was freaking out like that, but yeah, I really didn't want to be deployed. I didn't want more time taken away from me.
Right.
In hindsight, people made a lot of money going out there. I mean, some people got like limbs blown off and stuff like that. But the people who didn't just got like hazard pay, the regular pay. They'd come back and buy trucks and all this other stuff. Wow. Yeah, I didn't take full advantage of that, but I never got deployed. I was stationed to some small hospital, like right off VCU, and I was fortunate in that respect.
Okay. So your only deployments were VCU and basic training in North Carolina?
From basic training, I went to AIT, which no one ever talks about, because after basic training, like if you've seen In the Army Now or something, you're kind of the impression that like you go home. You don't. They immediately ship you off to AIT, which is where you learn how to do whatever job it is that you're going to do, which they kind of had in the Army Now, but I hate to keep referencing a Pauly Shore movie. They came home and were partying, and then they got called up in the Army Now. Whereas after basic, you immediately get sent on a plane to wherever it is
you're needed.
Right. And then you learn your job. I was fortunate that our AIT was 9 weeks, so it was the exact same amount of time as basic training. Some people's AIT was like a year or two if you were like a a medical technician or something like that. And I was like, Jesus, you're here for 2 years? And perhaps that was explained to them very well when they were signing up. I doubt it, because I wasn't lied to, but the truth was definitely bending over as that dude sweet talked me into signing.
And that was at like a recruiting station. There's like, oh, you want to go to college? Well, here's how you can go to college.
Right. And he was like, yeah, and you'll do this AIT thing. It's like college, everything's pretty loose and free. Not really. On the weekends, you got to leave base, and that was nice. Everybody was just fucking everybody, though. Like,
Really?
Yeah, because 9 weeks in basic, you're not really supposed to be around the opposite sex. People snuck off and did
Because
whatever.
they're trying to like make you a blank slate for
Right, you're here to be a
for
soldier.
their purposes.
Then in AIT, through the week, you're still here to be a soldier. You got some free time in the afternoon, but then they let you out for the weekend, and people would like rent whole floors of hotels, and everybody would just go from room to room, drinking, fucking partying, and it was wild. That was my first taste of being a free adult.
Was when you were 18, 19?
Yeah, and then from there I went to college, and then that was that. But
So how did you get out of the military? Did you do you did the full time?
4 years active, 2 years inactive.
Man,
Yeah, flies by though.
I would imagine so. And aside from everybody fucking everybody, are the people good? I imagine so, but
I met a lot of good people. I have some fun memories, and I have a tattoo. I only have one. I want to get more, but I can't decide on what I want on my body for the rest of my life. But I got a tattoo with a bunch of guys that I went to basic training with, who happened to also be in my AIT. So like the 12 of us all got it, and I think about them sometimes when I notice it, because you kind of forget. And then I'm like, I wonder what those guys are doing. I didn't really keep in touch with any of them. But everything was a lot more fun when I was in like basic and AIT. That was like summer camp, despite the war on terror beginning.
Right.
Whereas when I got out,
I imagine that's a surreal feeling.
It's hard to process. Like, if I was older and I had joined, I think I'd be able to look through everything with a bit more maturity and whatnot. But I was solely focused on getting back to school, having sex. That's about it. But it was a lot less fun, the Army Reserves, just because like you're back in real life. You got to come back there once a month, 2 weeks a year, and I wasn't working out or running or anything, so the PT on that one weekend a month was a nightmare for me. And I wasn't really doing food inspection. The specific title, I was 91 Romeo veterinary food inspector. The veterinary part really came in once I got out of basic and AIT, because we often wondered, what's that about? And like I said, I was at this hospital. So we were kind of assistants to veterinarians. Like if they needed boxes moved or for us to do little menial tasks, we would do that. Food inspecting never really came into play. Yeah. And we would sit around all day, do nothing. I think we'd get there at like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, sit around until like 4:30 when they were supposed to release us. They would come around 3:30 and give us a long list of things they needed done. And we were like, why didn't you tell us that at the beginning of the day? We've been sitting here all day. And then that would be that. And it wasn't as fun. Perhaps active duty was a lot more
more rah and heavy metal guitars and like bullets over Baghdad.
I wouldn't have been in a gunfight. I was told when I was freaking out, they were like, only one food inspector has ever died in the line of duty, and they weren't where they were supposed to be. I was like, oh.
Well, that's good. So that was also what I was saying. So just be where you're supposed to be.
And you'll be fine. You're not infantry. Yeah. Good times.
Sounds like it. Because I remember when I was in college and I was like going to school for theater and be like, oh, art and whatever. And I had to register for, I think, was it the selective service?
Yes.
So as a man, you're required to do at a certain age. But I remember getting that, and even then I was thinking, oh my God, this could be it. And then, but then also, like, if it got down to the point where they're calling me up, like the government's like, Will, we need you. I'd be like, oh, things are so wrong.
This is folly.
Indeed. Okay, so you get out of the so you get out of college, and what are we doing?
I sold
how's life at
cars
that point?
for a
So
couple of years.
what kind of cars?
Fords, new and used, any kind of used car. That was interesting. The money was okay. I was a pretty decent salesman because I'm not a salesperson.
Right. You strike me as someone like, because I've had sales jobs too. You strike me as someone who's like, yeah, I'll describe it, but we both know where this is lame.
Yeah.
So as a result, you're gonna like.
And
You'll
I
like
think
me more.
that worked. But when we got to discussing the numbers, I was a total shark. Not like a liar or anything like that, but it's
So-
all in how you phrase things. It's kind of like if you ever heard you don't ask people a yes or no question.
Right.
Right. So if I was going to ask a question, it'd be more like, if I can make these numbers work, you're going to take the car, right? Sure. Now, if you're really not there to buy something, no. But if you are and you just don't want to be sold, like, okay, well, yeah, if I can afford it. And then we sit down, and then I ask you, which monthly payment do you like more? I haven't taken any money off the price of the car. I just told you which payment, or I asked which payment you like. You pick one, and then I say, okay, so if we can do that, then you're going to take the car. Yeah. And it could be just that simple. Now, some people, it was a little more difficult. But for the most part, people just cared about the monthly payment. They didn't even care about the price of the car.
Because they figure they'll just get to it eventually as long as my monthly budget is in order.
Exactly. And some people had their own financing or were wise enough that they'd be like, no, let's talk about the bottom line. And I would sit down with them and I'd show them the invoice. I'd be like, this is what we paid for the car. This is what I'm going to make. And this is what you can pay. And then we'd discuss. Used cars was a little more difficult. Where it really got funny was like if people's credit was bad or if they had a car that they were trading in. That was really the big thing because it was like crazy gas prices and everybody was trying to unload their new SUV. But you know, the second you drive it off the lot, it is worth substantially less than
right
what you
down.
just paid. So everybody wants a new car every couple of years, but you should probably own your car. Most people never own their car, yet they're like, oh, I'd never lease a car. Why? Because you'll never own it.
Because you'll never own it.
Well, you'll never own your car either. And at least people who lease can turn it in after 2 years and not owe $12,000 or something like that.
Right. Just
Yeah.
that concept of ownership, for something expensive like a car is probably what I would imagine most people would want.
It's a nice concept, but people who really know money know it's a depreciating asset. So you probably, unless you've just got money to burn, probably shouldn't invest too much in something that's going to lose value. That's why owning a home is so much better.
Right,
Or
because that's only going to
investments.
go up. Yeah, I'm thinking about that too because I'm trying to get into this like just get an idea of the New York City real estate game because if you get in at the right apartment, in the right neighborhood, you're a millionaire in a couple of years, it seems.
I hadn't heard that.
Well, I've been thinking about this a lot, but because like that bit I do where I talk about how we're eventually all just moving into the Atlantic Ocean because we're all going to eventually get priced out to Canarsie or Flushing or Brighton Beach and then priced into the ocean.
By the way, Brighton Beach is a very lovely place.
I've never been. Is it good?
I didn't mind being in Midwood. Lovely Jewish folk. They're quiet. No one's out at night. I like that.
Yeah, Midwood is nice. When and I think this is kind of what I want to ask you next. So comedy starts for you around before you get to New York.
Yes.
How long are you doing comedy before you get to New York?
I was giving it a go for about 5 years down there, really like getting out 1 to 3 or 4 times if I could a night. And I did some festivals and whatnot. Visited here a couple of times, but, you know, nothing ever happens from that. Not for me anyway.
Right. I remember I came here twice before I moved. I mean, I'd already was kind of like, all right, I want to be in New York. But I did like I did a show at Pete's Candy Store before I moved here. And then I did like a bringer at Eastville Comedy Club. And it was like one of those, oh, well, I only have 2 people. Well, you're from out of town, so it's okay. Okay, so man, 5 years. So where are the places you're going?
I always wanted to get into the DC Improv. Eventually I did. And that was awesome because I got to perform with some people who I know now well. Wendy Liebman was really cool. And as a matter of fact, I was performing with her the weekend that my dad died, and I found out like 10 minutes before I had to go on stage on a Sunday. My mom calls me. She was like, "Hey, where are you? I think you should come home." And I was like, "I'm getting ready to..." No, I didn't tell her. She told me that my dad was dead, and she was like, "You should come home." And I was like, "I can't." And she's like, "Why?" And I was like, "Because I'm going on stage at the Improv in like 10 minutes." And she was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I was like, "It's all right. It's all right. It is what it is. I'll talk to you shortly." And then I went up, and other than my girlfriend at the time, I don't think anybody could tell. But, you know, that was a wild little moment. And Wendy and her sister, who was with her, knew. And they were very cool to me and have been since. That was like 2012. I think the Improv was just the biggest thing for me at that point. Got to have baby steps. And I was like, how can you want to be anything somewhere else like New York if you can't even be anything at home?
Right.
Yeah, so, but I mean, there are always exceptions to the rules. Jermaine, he left before the Improv was booking him because he was like, I can't wait for that. I just got to go. And huge success. So, I don't know. Maybe it was just my own thing.
Yeah, because I never cracked I still haven't cracked the DC Improv. I did some spots at Magooby's Joke House in Baltimore back when it was in a much smaller room. It's a really big club now. They get like
it used to be at
A-listers
Sully's Comedy Cellar.
Yes,
I've been
and
there.
now it's in the old Timonium Dinner Theater.
I haven't been to where it is now. I wasn't there when it was at
nice.
Sully's. I was at Sully's after they left. And I thought that place was nice, like not a lot of crowds, but they put you up in a really nice hotel and they pay you very well. And for that,
Yes.
I thank them.
Yeah, no, everyone who works with like Andrew, he's like a super cool guy, and like the way he runs the club is great. And the room is set up now. It's like has stadium seating. I think it seats like 300 people. It's pretty nice.
Nice.
That's my big thing lately, and I know I come to you a lot with these kinds of questions of like of trying to break clubs because it seems like just a bitch it seems nigh impossible sometimes, but then it keeps happening.
I mean, I think that we overthink some stuff. Like, the simplest way that we always hear to get it in a club in New York is hang out.
Yeah.
And then whatever will be. And it can be that simple. I mean, yeah, you get into things like, oh, you should be networking and speak to people. But if you hang out anywhere enough, eventually you probably should start to get to know people and be friendly. And then eventually somebody's going to get curious. Like, someone else will have performed with you and be like, oh, yeah, he's funny. Or maybe they'll just be like, hey, he's been hanging out here forever. Should we put him on to just see if he's terrible? Let's give that a try. It's been like 2 years.
Right.
Yeah, although I rarely ever see anybody who like has to wait too long. From what I found in this city, it seems to be some people get stuck in this place where they're only doing like check spots at a certain place, and they can't figure out how to like break over to getting past. I'm not the master at it. I've only passed in like a couple of clubs. I do certain spots at a lot of other places, so I'm still very much figuring it out.
Yeah. And you are also a very hot commodity in the alternative scene as well.
That's a very friendly thing to say. I don't know. I try to stay busy, and I'm really hoping the few places I haven't performed at, maybe 2016 will be the year.
What places are those?
I wouldn't call them out just in case it ever got back to them. But yeah, there's a couple places left that I really want to perform, and you know, you try to be patient. I'm so very impatient though, but I know that's my fault. But you know, I guess some people want you to have credits, or some people want to see you, but it's like you only see them when you're at their show. So it's like you'll never see me. But
Right.
yeah, that's where I'm just like, well, it can be done. It will be done eventually, somehow, some way. It's gonna happen. I never get.
You're unflappable. I like that about you.
I'm very hard to get down in the dumps.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen you, and we hang out. Not like, and it's not like, you know, we're calling each other at 3 a.m. with our problems. We do. It's true. But you seem. I don't think I've ever seen you be anything other than just like pleasant, chilled dude all the time.
I appreciate that. I put some effort into it. The Secret. I don't know if everybody has seen that. That changed my life. I wasn't like no, that's not true. I was probably angrier and perhaps even a little bitter when it came to comedy. This was maybe 2009. And I saw The Secret, and it was helping me get through a breakup, and it taught me about being positive. And it was something so small as
The Secret was that book from that kind of like book from a couple years ago. Okay,
it's all about the law of attraction.
Right.
And the biggest thing that I took away was it taught me that if I played a song that I found made me happy, that if I was ever feeling anything other than, I could listen to that song, and eventually, since I associate that with happiness, I would just be happy. So I used to play The Girl from Ipanema a lot because it just brings joy into my life. And you work at it, and then eventually it's effortless. And everybody's got problems, but I don't know. Nobody wants to be around somebody who's like constantly letting their problems affect their mood, or they take it out on you, or it's just hard to talk to them because everything is And so I wanted to be more like this, and there's always room to go. But yeah, and I like being around positive people just because I don't know what happens when you're around somebody, but like if you're around somebody who's negative or just down, it brings you down and it bums you out. And
most definitely. Like I think and I mention him a lot just because I enjoy his work so much. I think Mark Maron used the term psychic vampire.
I could see that.
Yeah. So you're associating so you're creating associations of happiness with like songs you like and things like that. Yeah. I wonder if maybe in a broader way that's like the appeal of sports for a lot of people.
I think it could be. The only bad thing is like if you rely on, let's say, the Carolina Panthers,
sure,
winning for happiness. Now they've had a great year, a lot of happy times if somebody did, but if they lose the Super Bowl, can you control it, or are you gonna flip out? And
yes,
yeah, and anybody who totally like flips out, I'm like, man, I understand being passionate to a degree. As long as you don't like throw a table or smash something, you could be upset. Everybody gets upset when certain stuff happens in sports. I'm a Giants fan. It's been difficult.
It was a rough year, right?
It was a rough like 3 seasons with some highlights in there. Odell Beckham Jr. has been wonderful. Thought Victor Cruz would be more of a force, but whatever. But yeah, like if I was a different person, I would probably be not the kind of person you want to watch sports around. I'm trying to think of like a team you just don't want to watch sports around. Like some people hate Steelers fans.
Well, from our neck of the woods, yeah.
Yeah, and Cowboys fans.
Hate Steelers, hate the Cowboys. So you're a I'm trying to think of like teams that are known for like having particularly annoying fans. Nothing's really coming to mind, but I did see this. I watch soccer's my big game.
Oh yes.
So I read a like a little top 50 like worst fans in soccer. The one that they kept coming back to, the number one was this Russian team, but that was mostly because they're like xenophobic crazy people. So, but yeah, insufferable people are like. Completely got off my point here.
Insufferable people.
Yeah, if you can watch, but yeah, I think if you can, be around anyone's like, oh, okay, or like has like a pleasant demeanor about it, then that's preferable to someone whose entire life depends on something that they can't control.
Yeah, I feel sad for anybody who's got a lot on their shoulders and kind of shows it to the world. Because like we all have stuff, but we deal with it. It's like when you ask somebody how they're doing. Now, if you really know the person, yes, you care if it's not going well. But for the most part, we've agreed you say good or well or fine because nobody really wants you to lay your shit on them.
Yeah. No one wants to hear in response to how's it going? Well, my wife left and bald and there's no sense to anything.
one of my testicles has got to go.
Yeah.
That's the day I'm having.
Like immediately.
And it's the one that it's my favorite nut. So
Yeah. Oh, that's always a sad day when the favorite one has to go. Or like
sure
the most
it's not the right nut that has to go, because the left one's really the load-bearing testicle.
It's the most presentable. Cool. So I dig your positivity,
I
Tyler.
appreciate you, Will. You're very kind and have been since the moment I got here. We didn't have a lot of interaction. We were in D.C. together, right?
We were, but I don't remember you there, oddly enough.
But here, it's been wonderful watching the friendship blossom.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Likewise, my friend. So, something else I want to talk with you about, because I know that this is might be a shared interest of ours, is because you're a movie reviewer.
That's
also
true.
And I would say from the stuff of yours that I've read, because you write, what's the site you write for again?
Latino-review.com.
Your stuff, I think, your writing, I think, yields more to the side of actual film criticism or analysis compared to clickbaity bullshit.
I appreciate that. When I first started doing it, I was just happy, but I was kind of summarizing films, and there were a couple, because people comment often on a lot of the stuff on Latino Review, and I like that, because the community let me know, like, Jesus, man, you're just like summarizing stuff. We don't need you to tell us the beats of the movie. Just tell us what you think. So I kept that in mind, and it's almost like a nice little exercise. Like, how much can I talk about the movie without talking about the movie? Like, analyze the characters and little things that I notice, parallels and this and that. And I've had a lot of fun with it, and it's really cool to get the feedback from the people who read, because it gets like over 1 million unique visitors a month.
Nice.
And yeah, they're big on feedback. And I read that website every day when I was bored at work for like 8 years. So I've gone from the dude reading and commenting to actually like writing and like getting to go to New York Comic Con and interact. I interviewed, I forget the name of his character, but he was the older son in Jurassic World, and I interviewed like a bunch of people for different shows, like the Border Town cast, and Judah Friedlander was on it, so that was cool since we had already
I know
known
Judah.
each other.
He's great.
A lot of fun stuff. I sent my registration too late to San Diego Comic Con this year, and I'm so bummed, because my editor went last year and I really wanted to go this year, and I'm disappointed that I was too late. They sent me an email saying that they would try to consider it, but that I should try to register as a normal person. I was like, no, I'm not going to be a normal person. I need the press pass. I need to go to everything and set up interviews. And
Yes, because I used to, one of my old jobs was for their housing company. So like the place you call to try to reserve a hotel room that sell out in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
I used to work for there. It was the worst time of my life.
I believe you. I
Every
can't
year.
imagine how awesome that's got to be, though, especially when they reveal, like, this year. When is Comic-Con?
I think it's in early July.
Okay, so they're going to be unveiling probably, like, Doctor Strange and Guardians of the Galaxy 2 footage, probably, because they start shooting that in a couple of weeks. As far as the DC stuff goes, there'll probably be some Suicide Squad stuff, maybe even some Aquaman, Wonder Woman, definitely.
Yeah.
All that comic book stuff, I want it. I need it.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll have any X-Men stuff. Probably announce like the second Deadpool, which I'm sure will have Cable in it for you nerds out there.
You're looking forward to Deadpool?
I am. I'm glad that it's right around the corner. Plus, when Deadpool comes out, Deadpool is in February. I believe that Batman v Superman is March, and I think Captain America is April. And then, not that I like the X-Men, but that's like May, June, I think. Maybe July.
That sounds about right. I haven't. The last X-Men movie I saw was Future Class.
Hated it. Oh wait, no. First Class.
First Class.
Okay, I love that one.
Yeah, for First Class.
I didn't like Days of Future Past.
I didn't even.
I was so bored.
See that one.
I'm not going to say stealing because I don't endorse that, but I will be seeing Apocalypse in a different way because they've gotten the last of my money. Magneto picked up a stadium and put it around the White House like an octagon, and then lined up sentinels all around it like the biggest fight on Earth was about to happen. And then everybody talked, and then the movie was over. Sorry if I spoiled that for anyone who didn't see it. It was terrible.
How long's it been out? Like 3 years?
That was 2015, 14.
Okay, so 2 years. You should have had time to see it by now.
Yes, you should.
Even if it was up next on your Netflix DVDs.
I apologize.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Because that was my big problem with the prequels in Star Wars, is that there's a lot of talking. Like the early movies, I know they're setting up a lot of stuff, and I don't really hate them with the bile that people on the internet do, because I just accept that they're different movies that were not from what I was expecting from the movies I watched as a 9-year-old. But anytime people there are critics and people on the internet that will kind of hate on a movie for not explaining anything, but then are also the same people to say, oh, there's just so much talking. So it's like, what?
Yeah.
How is there a superhero movie that struck a balance between those two, you would say?
I would have to say, like, The Dark Knight, there wasn't really that much action in it, but you were never bored.
Mm-hmm.
The only times I might have been anywhere close to bored was, like, Two-Face scenes where I'm just waiting to get back to the Joker. I'm like, yeah, that's nice. Get back to the Joker, please.
Yes.
But yeah, I thought that film was very engaging. And to a point, I'll say that Iron Man, the first one, kind of did that, because there's like no action in that movie.
No, not really.
Yeah, he fought a couple of terrorists for a split second in the middle of the movie, and then he has half a costume at the very end of the movie that he's fighting the villain with. And the rest of it is just Robert Downey Jr. Enjoy. And he's good enough that nobody really cared.
Right.
But then they tried to give you a whole lot of action in the second one, and you saw what happened there.
Yeah.
Everybody hated it. And the third one was not the greatest.
Yeah, third one, I think, because the Avengers had come out, and the Avengers was so good.
Yes.
That it leaves it leaves too many things to go, oh, why didn't you do that? Or why did he do this? And then you start thinking and then if you start thinking like that, then you're out of the movie.
True. I'm surprised people didn't like the Avengers 2 that much. I really did. I think Thor Ragnarok is going to be incredible, though.
Oh, when's that come out?
I don't know. I think it might be summer 2017, but it's going to be a buddy flick with Thor and the Incredible Hulk.
Nice.
Yeah, and they're working in Planet Hulk. That's a little spoiler stuff for you all.
I'm already excited to see it.
It's going to be marvelous, I'm sure.
Oh, nice. I'm trying to think of any other recent movie that I might want to talk to you, because we're coming in for a nice landing here. It's been about a month. I know you've said before you're not a huge Star Wars guy, but what are your thoughts on The Force Awakens?
Have not seen it.
Haven't seen it.
Yeah, there was a screening. There wasn't supposed to be a screening, but there was, and my editor told me he'd be on the lookout for it. And when it came out, he was like, I asked him, like, is there a screening? Because the movie comes out on Friday. And he was like, oh, yeah, it's tomorrow, but I can't get a guest. Now, he doesn't normally go, so I don't go as a guest. So that was like a nice subtle way of being like, I'm going, and I can't take you with me. And I was like, okay. So when you don't have to pay to see every movie, the thought of paying, that takes a lot. Like, I would pay to see Captain America, Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not paying for Star Wars. I'm not that big a fan.
Sure.
I will wait for, I guess, HBO. I'll probably rent it when it becomes available to stream.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. Plus, like, I didn't want to go see it early because being a part of that crowd, people cheering when Han Solo comes on the screen, I was like, it's going to be nonstop. People are going to cheer for every bit of nostalgia they get. And I know how the movie ends. I knew it before the movie ever came out. And I was like, it's going to be a madhouse. And I feel bad because I made my girlfriend wait so long. And but she'll I'm sure be fine waiting until it streams as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. I will say, and I've seen it twice now, and I'm not giving away anything, but it's big on. It's definitely big on nostalgia. It's everything from as someone who watched them for the first time when they were 9 and got really caught up in them. It's everything I would want. And everybody's status on Facebook that gets 140 likes pointing out all the potholes doesn't bother me. It's like religion in that way.
Ah, fair enough. I heard that it was a lot like Jurassic World in that it was A New Hope redone, and Jurassic World was Jurassic Park again.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's fine. I'm sure I'm still going to very much like what happens throughout the movie. Look like a spectacle. Black Jedis, I dig it.
Certainly a spectacle. Spectacle for 2015.
It's weird that people got upset about the Black Jedi, but like Samuel L. Jackson was Mace Windu, it was like 15, 16 years ago. And it's like, did you not catch that? Maybe they didn't mind it because he had a purple lightsaber.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I could tell you the whole mythology behind why he has a purple lightsaber.
Is it because he's a homosexual?
No, it's actually because the bad guys' lightsabers are usually red. A lot of the good guys' lightsabers are blue.
Oh, great.
So it's a blend. People who favor the purple lightsaber are sort of like a mix of light side and dark side.
What about the green?
Green is also good, but it's a different type of good. There, I think, and if you comment, then I'll know you're listening. I think green is a different set of virtues and qualities of the light side of the force compared to the blue.
And yellow as well.
Yes. Like there's something on Vox that breaks down like every single one.
You're a much bigger Star Wars fan than I had given you credit for.
I get and I have a lot of time to read Wikipedia.
Well, I can't knock that.
Cool. So thanks for talking to me, Tyler.
Thank you for having me, Will.
I appreciate you. Is there anything of yours did I miss anything else that we needed to discuss?
No, I think that we hit some nice high notes and a lot of stuff that I don't get to talk about at length. And hopefully, whenever I make my way back around, we'll have a lot of other good news to go over.
Awesome. Sounds good, man, because I definitely have you on again.
I appreciate that.
Cool, man. Anything we can plug before we get out?
When does this come out?
I will put it. I was actually thinking of putting it up Monday.
Okay. So Monday night on February 1st, I'll be at Caroline's at the 7 o'clock show. Caroline's on Broadway. And I think for the month of February, the shows that stand out, I'm at UCB for If You Build It. I think it's the second Sunday of the month. And I'm at the Stand for Fat Baby on the, I think, 11th of February. And those are the three that come to mind first.
Awesome. Tyler Richardson's one of the funniest guys I know. Those are also some of the best rooms in New York City if you live here. And immediately after I hit stop, I'm going to ask him how he got those shows. But because he's my friend.
And I'll tell him.
All right. Thanks for talking to me, man.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, that's our show. Thank you for listening. Please check my website, www.willcareyisfunny.com. That's Will, C-A-R-E-Y, isfunny.com. For my upcoming shows, again, me and David Lawson are going to be doing our shows at Bunga's Den Friday, February 5th at 9 p.m. And also check the description for Tyler's upcoming shows. And actually, I completely got the date wrong when I said what his shows were going to be. So I'm actually going to tell you what day that is right now if you don't remember already. February 1st is going to be the day of those shows. So have a great week, and please follow me on Twitter at ComicWillCarey, and I appreciate you listening. And if you want to help me out and tell someone that you enjoyed the show, that would be fantastic. We're going to get it up on iTunes soon. Thank you, everyone, and I will see you next week between awesome and disaster. Take care.